As far back as I can remember, I've always been literate. This is me, Mike, giving you my pathway to literacy in sports, reading, fitness, English, and movies. Although I was very young, my pathway in sports literacy began with hearing the faint cheers for the 1998 Michael Jordan Bulls against the Utah Jazz. Who could forget about Michael Jordan? Even nowadays, all I do is look up YouTube videos of him. He's simply unbelievable. Then, of course, we have the 1999 to 2000 McGwire versus Sosa home run race, the 2005 White Sox, and then again, there's always tennis. I personally think that we are very fortunate, and I mean the millennials, to live in the generation of the greatest tennis player of all time, Roger Federer. Sports literacy, however, isn't just a passion for watching it, it's knowing the certain terms that they use. For example, let's go with Roger Federer. Many of you have seen him hit a ball in between his legs as he's chasing it down going towards the baseline. Does anybody know what that's called? I do. It's called a tweener. Let's go with the other sports then. Everybody knows about Michael Jordan and his impact on the game, at least tentatively. But can you tell me the name of the dunks that he's used or revamped in his career? What about Vince Carter? How about Barry Bonds? Can you tell me what record he broke in 2007? Whose record he broke? Or how many of this record he has or ended up with? Not many people can. But like I said, for most people, sports is just fun to watch. Not a lot of people internalize the jargon, the sports jargon. But I do. And for me, sports is both a passion and something to study. Some other sports that added to my literacy in sports are chess, and I took some Krav Maga lessons, so I'm not really sure why I have a boxer up here, but either way, fighting in general. Next is reading. Now, when I was very young, around 3rd grade, the administrators / my teachers put me in the slow reading classes. They gave me all these modules and tutorials to look at, and I was like, say what? I can read just fine. But then I realized that it was the overwhelming nature of the books and text that they gave me. So, to counter this, my mom bought me a bunch of books, a bunch of mini-series of books such as Oliver Twist, The Three Musketeers, and in general I learned that reading isn't about the whole text approach. It's more so about taking each sentence at a time. And then, of course, my love for history got me to read history and be interested in that. So overall, my reading developed quite well. And the best part about reading history is that you understand how facts can be applied accurately, much like the Nicolas Cage classic, National Treasure. Next is fitness. Now, there's nothing like being an overweight kid in your youth, especially in middle school, to get you to consider ways to slim down and be fit. But for me, I became fitness literate when I started to lose weight and learn the differences between things like interval training and endurance running. I learned certain tips that help you lose fat more than other things. So although this isn't necessarily that extensive of a lexicon per se, being fitness literate helped me get the body that I want, and I'm quite convinced it could help anybody get the body that they want. In terms of English literacy, it took me a long time to realize the difference between the practical applications of English and having a polished understanding of standard English. For instance, when it comes to pronoun cases in a sentence like, when it comes to, and the option is either my or me, playing video games, concentration is the middle name. Technically, according to standard English rules, my would be the correct pronoun to use there. But in reality, in a practical day-to-day conversation, typically people would say me. So in general, I find standard English to be lame, but since I'm going into an academic field, I suppose it's good to have a good knowledge of standard English. But in general, I feel like this country, especially standardized tests, stress it way too much. Some say that when Blockbuster, of course it doesn't exist now, becomes your second home, that is when you know that you have a real problem with movies. I like to consider myself both a movie aficionado and to be someone very literate in movies. For instance, some of the movies that you see before you are Game of Thrones, Godfather Part 2, and Scarface. A lot of people don't know that Al Pacino is Al Pacino. They call him Tony Montana based on his obvious cinematic classic, Scarface. But I, of course, know Al Pacino and Tony Montana, so I pretty much win in both regards.